Good evening. And before we start the formal proceedings, those of you who don't know me, I'm Karan Bellamoria, and delighted to take part in this evening. But before we start the formal part of the program, I just want us all to spend a couple of minutes remembering Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. It is just over a week since she passed away, and I was in America when it happened on Thursday the 8th in Boston. I got the news as I came out of a meeting at lunchtime, American time, and I was scheduled to fly back on the Thursday night. I came back on Friday and was then in the House of Lords and spoke in the tributes to Her Majesty on Friday the 9th. And then on Monday we had His Majesty King Charles III, who came to Westminster Hall, where the Queen is now lying in state, and he came and addressed both Houses of Parliament and made his first speech to us. So if I could just, the Queen has been the most amazing inspiration to us all, and the reaction we received from all over the world, not just the UK, not just the Commonwealth, but the whole world. As I said in my speech, she wasn't just the Queen of Queens, she wasn't just the monarch of monarchs, she was the ultimate monarch, the most famous monarch in the world, but most importantly, the most respected and the most loved. So if I may request you all to please stand, and if we have 2 minutes of silence in her memory of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Thank you very much. All I can say is to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, thank you very much. We will always be inspired by you, and to King Charles III. Long live the King, long may he reign. Thank you very much. And to now Amish, the Director of the Nehru Center, I hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Lord Karan. For those of you who are coming to the Nehru Center for the first time, my name is Amish Tripathi. I'm the director of the Nehru Center and Minister Culture at the Indian High Commission to the UK. This is technically a part of the Indian High Commission. You are technically on Indian soil, so welcome to India. Now, there are some books that you read and you grow to love and you become a fan of. But on the other hand, there are some authors who you meet as people, and you grow to love and you actually become a fan of. Rukshana is one of those. the name is a Parsi name. In Urdu, I know Urdu as well, and Rukshana, correct me if I'm wrong. In Urdu, Rukshana means beautiful. Absolutely right. My Urdu is good then. She is a force of nature. And I was introduced to her by Lord Bilimoria, and she is a force of nature who you cannot say no to. It rarely happens at an event that a peer from the House of Lords comes to introduce the book. I'm sure Lord Karan Bilimoria could not say no to Ruxana either. I have got to know her over the last few weeks as she planned this event with great detail, passion, and commitment. And I have become a fan of hers, and I'm sure many of you, as you read her books, will become, just as I have become, a fan of hers as well. Looking forward to this event, Ruxana, and Godspeed.
Thank you very much, Amish. And most importantly, thank you for hosting this event at the Nehru Center, but also for being such a brilliant director. I remember when I started Cobra Beer 32 years ago, the Nehru Center had only just been started, and Gopal Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, was the first director, your predecessor. And to this day, he's a friend. And here you are, following in his footsteps and doing such a fantastic job, one event after another here, promoting India, promoting Indian culture in such a brilliant way. So thank you so much for all that you and your team do for all of us here at the Nehru Center. Thank you, Ramesh. We're going to start, before we do anything else, giving you a taste of the book. Before I say anything about Rukshana or about the book, I was saying in my speech, by the way, that I'm a deputy lieutenant for London, and the Vice Lord Lieutenant, the previous Vice Lord Lieutenant, Sir Michael Craig Cooper, was accompanying the Queen, and she was walking through the crowds, and she stopped to meet a teenage girl who curtsied in front of the Queen. And as this teenage girl curtsied in front of the Queen, and Michael Craig Cooper was standing next to her, the girl's phone rang. So she was very embarrassed, and the Queen said, "You should answer it. It could be somebody important." We now have Rukshana's sister-in-law, Clarissa Horwood, and Rukshana's husband is, of course, over here filming and taking pictures. But his sister, Rukshana's sister-in-law, is now going to read from the book to all of us. So, Chris, over to you.
Dear Mother, my first flight, and I was nervous to say the least, trying to remember how many parts of Bacardi to how many parts of whiskey made up an Irish coffee. Hang on, is there Bacardi in Irish coffee? I was deep in thought over the recipe of some cocktail or other when a large passenger approached me. She came right up to me, thrust her face as close to mine as humanly possible, and said, "I've wet myself." Oh no, I thought to myself. Surely my duties can't extend to cleaning her up. I gave her some tissues and tried to send her back to her seat. "No, you don't understand. My waters have broken." "You've dropped water on yourself?" I inquired, having heard her clearly the first time. I was hoping I'd misheard her, as my brain couldn't take in that this woman was telling me she was about to have a baby at 35,000 feet. "No," she said, "my waters have broken. You have to help me. I'm in labor." No wonder she was so large. She was heavily pregnant. My throat went completely dry, and I had difficulty even calling a colleague. But I finally managed to find my voice and called her. This cannot be happening, I thought, as we laid the woman down in the galley area with blankets beneath her. My training kicked in straight away. My colleagues brought me all the instruments I needed. I then asked for some towels. They brought them over and asked me what I wanted them for. To wipe the perspiration, I said, quite frustrated. But she's not perspiring, my colleague said, holding the towel, ready to help. Not her, me, I'm perspiring. The other passengers commented they could hear a lot of screaming and shouting from the galley area and wondered if everything was going well, as they had been told a woman was in labor. Yes, she's fine, they were reassured. All the screaming and shouting you are hearing is coming from our colleague. I'm not quite sure that comforted them. Meanwhile, back in the galley area, the now only half-pregnant, half-delivered lady was telling me to calm down and take deep breaths. Breathe, breathe, she said, and don't worry, this is my third baby. Well, that's all very well for you, but this is my first, I said, in my defense. What I would like to mention is what they do not teach you in the training school, is that along with the lovely baby, wee, poo, and lots of blood also comes out from the mother. Finally, after 2 hours of labor, the baby was born with the cord around its neck. One of my colleagues helped me to slowly move it over the baby's head, and we handed it to mother. Then we cut the cord. We tied it as per the instructions, and then I crossed myself 3 times. Said 3 Hail Marys, not a clue what I was doing. I knew more about cutting cords than Hail Marys, but somehow it seemed to help, and I cut it. There was not a dry eye in the galley, and nor was there a dry body. We were covered in fluids of all kinds that I don't care to think about, but the sight of the baby, the face of delight and sheer gratitude from the mother, the cheers from the passengers, and the knowledge that on the first day of my first flight, I had delivered a baby at 35,000 feet, made it all worthwhile. And no, I would not want to do it again. So as you can see, Mother, you really have nothing to worry about for the rest of my time as a flighty. I came, I saw, I delivered. Wish you'd been there. Love, C. And so my travels began with a bang and a squeeze and a birth.
Fantastic. So that gives you a taste of one of the postcards in Life on a Postcard. I came, I saw, I delivered. That was Prime Minister Liz Truss being quoted over there. So my job now is to introduce Rukshana Chenoy Horwood to you. I've known Rukshana since we were children. We both come from Hyderabad. Our families are related. Our families are not just related, we're very, very close. Her parents, my mother, her aunts, my mother's best friends, and I'm not exaggerating, best, closest friends. She speaks to them almost every day, from Dehradun to Hyderabad. It's a very illustrious family that she comes from. Her grandfather was a very famous lawyer. There was a great-grandfather who was a Nawab. And the Parsi community in Hyderabad, we're only 100,000 Parsis in the whole world. And in Hyderabad, there are less than 1,000 Parsis. And yet, as ever, and I'm sorry to boast, they did very well. And many of them were Nawabs. My great-grandfather, my mother's grandfather, was a member of the Rajya Sabha. And they did incredibly well as a community and incredibly close as a community. And when we both did our initial university at Osmania University, and then Rukshana decided to travel and joined a very famous airline, who I'm not allowed to name, but you can guess which airline it is, and came here to the UK. She was actually born here in the UK and then moved back to India as a child. And she decided to learn, in fact, her father had come to learn how to fly with my uncle. There were 3 of them who came to learn how to fly over here in the UK. You correct me if I'm wrong, Rukshana. One of them ended up being a pilot in Indian Airlines. And so she had this wanting to travel around the world, and then joined this famous airline and traveled all around the world. So a lot of the book is about traveling around the world and the stories and these postcards, one after the other. And it's amazing how easy it is to read this book. It's fast-moving. You've just had a taste of it. It's witty, it's funny, it's emotional, it's very sad in parts, and it just takes you on this journey. And what came across to me more than anything else, and why I'm so proud of her, is this has shown the potential that lies within each one of us. I don't know when she was a young college girl in Hyderabad that she thought one day she would be a best-selling author, but here it is. She's written this amazing book that shows the talent that has been within her all these years. And I can tell you one thing. I was giving a lecture yesterday at our younger daughter's school at Bradfield College, and one of the messages I was imparting to the children, and these were the A-level all the way down to scholars through the years, I said the most important skill in life is the ability to be creative. Whatever you do in life, if you can be creative and innovative, that, especially as an entrepreneur for me, has been a great skill. But here, in this book, you see creativity amazingly demonstrated. And it's a lovely, lovely book, which I just love reading. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm now going to invite the author herself, Rukshana, to come and say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karan, for that amazing introduction. So now I'm feeling the pressure. I knew this because now the pressure is on to be funny. Because I know that, half the audience is sitting there thinking, so, you've written a humorous book, have you? Think you can make us laugh? Go ahead, make us laugh. And I know the other half of the audience, the British Asian half of the audience, is sitting there thinking, so, written a funny book, have you? Think you can make us laugh? Go on, make us laugh. Make us laugh then. Because you see, and this is something you don't know about British Asians like myself, okay? And I'm going to let you know a little secret. So British Asians like myself, we might talk like this, but actually, we're always thinking in our Indian accent. So you see, that's something you didn't know, right? Always thinking in our Indian accent. So I'm standing here thinking, oh no, yeah, they're going to expect me to make them laugh. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to make them laugh, yeah? Making people laugh is no joke. Pause for laughter there, but no, that didn't land, did it? Okay. Okay. Before I begin, I would just like to thank a few people. So obviously the first person I'd like to thank is Karan, my cousin, who literally single-handedly put this all together, introduced me to his whole team, introduced me to Amish, Pranjula, who have all worked tirelessly to put this together. So Karan, words are not enough to thank you. I don't know how you've done it, but honestly, he just literally pulled out all the stops. So I called Karan about 4 months ago, and I said, Karan, I've written this book, and I'd like to have a look. He said, say no more, Rukshana. I will organize it all. And so he did. So I just don't know how to thank you. He has literally put his whole team at my disposal. And Rohan, I don't know where Rohan is, but I don't know what I would have done without him. He's calmed me down throughout. He's just been there. Number of emails I can't even begin to tell you, and phone calls. And Omar's been absolutely brilliant, suffering through all my texts. And Mandeep is fantastic as well, organized the food. So I can't thank you enough. I really don't know what to say. Thank you. And obviously the next people I'd like to thank you, met Amish just now, the director of the centre, and Pranjula. They have been so brilliant. They have, again, none of this would be possible without them. So, I just want to say thank you. They've been so supportive, so kind, so helpful. And I've called Amish and texted him about 100 times, and Pranjula, I am pretty sure she must have woken up and sat bolt upright in bed many a night at 2 a.m. screaming, "Not another email from that woman." So thank you so much. The fact that neither of you are on high doses of Valium is a real testament to your resilience, seriously. But Pranjula, you'll be really pleased to hear that after today, no more emails.
She's going to miss it.
Until the next time. I'm kidding. Somebody please catch her, she's falling. No, she's actually falling. Can somebody catch her? Actually? Poor Pranjula, because she's had a really rough day. We've already had to use the smelling salts on her because she had to see me without makeup this afternoon. So she's had a really, really bad time. So thank you both so much. When I called Karan and I said, I wanted to have this launch, he said, don't worry, we're going to organize everything. We're going to invite authors, we're going to invite, writers and journalists, etc., etc. So I just want to thank those of you who are here today to support me. So thank you so much. And then finally, I'd like to thank all of you, because I know that you're here just to support me. And some of you come from Manchester and Southampton and Hawley. I miss Hawley. So thank you so much for being here, because I know you've come here just to support me. So I really, really appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know me, just a little bit about myself. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I'm married, though I was nearly widowed recently, which was really scary for my husband when I nearly strangled him to death. Now, this happened recently, as I said, when I asked him, does this dress make me look fat? And he looked at me and he said, no, your fat makes you look fat. So I'm pretty sure that any judge would have left me off that one. So for those of you, again, who don't know me, a little bit about my background, my professional background. My background's in psychology. I then spent 25 years in the corporate world, as Karan was just telling you. During that time, obviously, 25 years, I'd just like to point out, I started when I was 3, because obviously, don't look that old. I know you were thinking it, so I thought I'd say it. And during that time, I was writing articles for magazines and newspapers and internal and kind of local articles and magazines. And people who read it said, you really should write a book. So 10 short years later, here I am, I've written a book. So what can I tell you about the book? First of all, I don't consider myself to be an author or a writer or a novelist. I'm a storyteller. So I told stories, and I guess they were put together to form a book. And the book is written through a series of postcards written to the protagonist's mother. And I guess these postcards put together weave the story. So I guess the subtext of the postcards is the story. So I'm hoping that in today's day and age of, the 30-second attention span, what was I saying? Kidding. I'm hoping that in today's day and age of the 30-second attention span, that I actually really did forget what I was saying. No, kidding. That this will go down really well because, as Karan was saying, it actually is a really easy book to read. You can just pick up, read it, short postcards, etc. So what's the book about? So the book is about a young girl who's plucked from her middle-class, Middle England existence and taken to where else? Hyderabad in India, which is where I grew up, because her father's job gets moved there. And there she gets to know local customs, local cultures, local people, and local boys. And of course, one boy in particular who just happens to be a Parsi. And then something happens in her life which prompts her to join an airline, hence the postcards. So there are some twists and turns in the book, if you haven't read it, that you won't be expecting, which hopefully will add some, depth to what is a really light and humorous novel. So that's a little bit about the book. So people have been asking me, what are your ambitions for the book? What do you want people to think? What do you want people to feel? And I've been thinking, what is this ambition for ambition? I'm Indian, I write a book, people buy it, end of. I don't understand all this feeling shieling. Those of you who I planted in the audience, I did say laugh, didn't I? Though thanks, baby girl, that was a good laugh. Lilia. Ems. KK, you're perfect. I always say there's no point in having kids unless you can embarrass them, because, that's the joy of having them. So, I always try at every opportunity to embarrass my kids. But teenagers, so you embarrass your kids, that's great, but then embarrassing their friends is an added bonus. So always try to do that. But actually embarrassing teenagers is on a completely different level. It's such a joy because they get even more embarrassed. Poor thing, she didn't know this was coming. So my teenager says to me, Mama, you can't tell me what to do now because I'm a teenager, so, I should really be allowed to do whatever I want. And I say, well, no, I have to tell you what to do because, I'm your mom, you're still very young, I do need to tell you what to do. And she says, no, Mama, you can't tell me what to do. I'm a teenager, I should be allowed to do whatever I want. And I say to her, why? Why should you be allowed to do what you want? And she says, because I'm easy, I'm breezy, and I'm vibey. I'm easy, breezy, and vibey. If I'd said that to my mum when I was her age, Mum, you can't tell me what to do because I'm easy, breezy, and vibey, my mum would have said, well, it'll be very easy for me to raise my hand, and it will definitely be very, very breezy when it makes contact with your bottom, and I can assure you it'll be very vibey as well. Fatak! Easy, breezy, and vibey. I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. My mum never laid a hand on me. Of course she never laid a hand on me. A couple of hangers maybe, but never a hand. I'm kidding. Mum, I am kidding. So what are my ambitions for the book, though, seriously? I think we've been through some of the most challenging times of our lives, and some of us continue to go through real challenges. So I guess my ambitions for the book would be for people to just pick it up, to read it, to laugh for a couple of hours, and forget about all their challenges and problems. And I guess if that happens, then my ambitions will be completed. And it reminds me of a lady I interviewed once. She was a magician, and her name was Faye Presto. Funnily enough, that was her real name. No, I'm kidding. Of course not. Of course it wasn't her real name. So Faye Presto. So I interviewed her, and I said to her, so you do magic, do you? And she said, that's stuff that I do on stage, those tricks and, those cards and those wands, those are all tricks. But actually, I do magic. Because when people come to see me, and for 2 hours, I make them forget about all the bills they have to pay, all their problems, all their issues, and I can make them forget that, that's magic. So I guess that's what I would like for my book, for people to just read it, laugh, forget about their problems for a little bit. So I would like to end with sharing an anecdote with you, an incident that happened to me recently that makes you kind of realize where you can get your inspiration sometimes from the most unexpected people and unexpected places. And Mum, this one's for you, because my mum would have loved to have heard this anecdote. I just thought I'd mention my mum's not actually up in the ceiling. I just thought I'd say that. She's up there looking down on us, bless her, but she's not actually up in the ceiling, just in case you thought she was. So this happened to me recently. So as I said to you, my background's in psychology. So with my other hat on, I'm a neurodiversity coach and practitioner, and I'm lucky enough to work on some projects with CJS, our criminal justice system. And I support prisoners and ex-prisoners who are neurodiverse. So on one such occasion recently, I was conducting and running a team coaching session with some ex-custodial clients who are neurodiverse. And I asked them to share as, an icebreaker. I asked them to share that as they were starting this new chapter in their lives and this new lease of life they had, What would they like to do in the next year that they've never done before? So then when it came time for me to share, I said, well, I've written this book and I've got it published and I'm about to publicize it. And I ended with saying, well, I don't know if anybody's going to read it, but, I've published it. And the youngest man in this group, 21 years old, who'd been in and out of prison for 3 years, he'd had a history of drug and alcohol abuse since he was 13, mainly because his neurodiversity had not been diagnosed, and this is the sad part. So this young boy, with all the issues and all the problems he must have had, he turned around and said to me, "It don't matter, Rukshana. It don't matter if no one reads it. You've written it. It's there. It will be there forever. It don't matter if no one reads it." And I was so inspired by this young man who was able to put aside all his issues and all his problems and show me how to look at my achievement in a completely different light. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, stop. No, carry on. Stop, carry on. So Karan has very kindly, should I sit here?
Okay.
You got a mic there? Has very kindly offered to ask me some questions, and then we would like to throw questions out to the audience.
So, Rukshana, that was brilliant. That was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then get ready for questions, okay? And where's Dinshaw? Dinshaw, you're taking photographs, but you're going to ask a question as well. I'm warning you in advance.
Don't worry, I planted people.
Okay. Now, the book is a series of these postcards. There are 97 to be precise.
If you say so, I don't know. Was it
And
98? I can't remember.
97, 98, not quite 100. And that's one question. Why aren't there 100? But anyway, it's so beautiful that you can literally dip in and out of it. You can read a couple of postcards, put it down, pick it up again. But there is a story. Why did you put 8, 9, and 10 in the beginning, out of order?
Okay. Because I was told by my editor that it needed to be kind of flash forward, because I wrote it chronologically, but they said, no, you've got to do it the other way around. So to keep people's interest.
Okay. When I did Desert Island Discs, I remember it's this program on the BBC, and you choose music from different parts of your life. And you naturally do it chronologically, music that you relate to in certain parts of your childhood. And you go there thinking they're going to ask you the questions chronologically, and they start at different parts of your life, and it really throws you.
That's what I did.
Anyway, so when did you realize that you had this creative ability and this ability to write in a way that is so easy to read and so funny?
Well, I was writing articles, as I said, and I have to find humor in everything, and I try to find humor in everything, as all my friends know. So it was quite easy. It just came easily to me, and sometimes I sit down to write, and I think I'm never, ever going to be able to write anything funny, and I just do. I don't know where it comes from, but it's just, I have to find humor in everything, because just that's the way I am.
But those articles you're writing earlier on, they would also be humorous.
Some of them, mostly were travel articles because it was an airline, so, but I still try to make them humorous. But, you write these really boring round-robin letters at Christmas. So I started writing those because I prefer to give the money to charity rather than send cards. So I started writing these round-robin letters, and everybody said, "Oh, they're hilarious, you really need to write a book." And so here I am.
And now, was the idea of these postcards and to do it in this way, which is such an innovative idea in itself, and the title is lovely, Life on a Postcard. Where did you get that idea from?
I just don't know. I was trying to think of a name for a book to show people, what it was about. I find it difficult to read long chapters, so I wanted to make sure that the chapters are really, really short. So I decided that's the way I was going to do it. But it was a little bit worrying, because my sense of humor, I think a lot of people know, is a little bit maybe an acquired taste. So not everybody will get it. And I just thought, well, people have been encouraging me to write the book, and I thought, okay, I'm going to write it. And I did write it, and then the first people to read it were my friends and my family. So I thought, okay, this is good. They were all coming back to me, and they were all saying, oh, this is brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant. And then I thought, yeah, but then what if people who don't know me read it, and then they don't like it? But then one of my friends, Claire, she told all her friends about it, and they started reading it, and they came back to me, or came back to her, saying, we are literally snorting wine through our noses, reading this book out loud and laughing out loud. And I thought, well, that's good. So that's a little bit of validation there. And then I had journalists, Barney, writing to me and saying, sadly couldn't be here today because I think he's not very well, but he would have loved to have been here. And he was, he and other journalists writing to me saying, we really love the way you write and it's really funny. And then I started thinking, are people just, being nice? Are they just being kind? And I was really kind of getting a bit of a complex about that. And then my daughter's godfather, Kevin, he read the book and he said, I didn't laugh out loud. It was good, but I didn't laugh out loud. And I thought, okay, good. A balanced view, because I thought, this is really good, balanced view. But then I thought about it for 30 seconds. I thought, sod the balanced view, I just want the praise. So I ignored that one. But I do want to say, though, I did come very close to getting a balanced view, actually, because honestly, everybody who's read it has said it's brilliant. Right? So everyone said, but I did come really close to getting a balanced view because one of my friends, Jude, sorry, it's an inside joke, Jude, she's one of these friends who always tells you the truth. So, it's the kind of friend you hate, but you just have to have around because you have to know the truth sometimes. But she always tells you the truth. So I said to her, Jude, can you tell me what you thought of the book? And I thought she's in the audience. She said, I can't tell you. And I said, no, I want a balanced view. I just, you've got to tell me. Because I thought, here I'm going to get a balanced view. And she was like, no, I'm sorry, I just can't tell you. And I just happened to have to leave the room at the time. And she ran over to my daughter and she said, I will never tell your mum this. I will never tell your mum this, but it was bloody brilliant. So there you go.
You see, a balanced view is good and good. That's balanced.
Thank you.
Great
Absolutely.
and great is balanced.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, talking about postcards, Heather will, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the headmasters of a prep school that we sent our children to, in his past life was in the Coldstream Guards and was a query to the Queen, ADC to the Queen. And he was very mischievous. When the Prime Ministers would go in every week for their weekly audience with the Queen, he'd play tricks on John Major, and John Major was not amused at all. And he would send postcards to the Queen from his holidays. So I'm going to give him a copy of this book.
You need to write a book.
Now, reading this, somebody who's known you, we've known each other since we were children, a lot of it sort of rings true. And I say, is she talking about this person or that person or this incident? How much of it is genuinely autobiographical?
So it is semi-autobiographical, but I'm not going to say what is real and what isn't. But I have had lots of friends and family ringing me up going, is that true? Did you really deliver a baby at 35,000 feet? That kind of thing. So yeah, so it is, lot of it is true.
You did deliver a baby.
I did.
That is absolutely true.
That is absolutely true, nearly word for word.
But not on your first flight.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay, now what about this? I don't want to give too much of the book away, but there's the one about, the postcard about this passenger who brought a snake on the plane that escaped. Is that true? That
is absolutely true, nearly word for word. And for those of you who have not read the book yet, Paul's still on page 11, I'm afraid. Dink's probably on page 5. I'm calling you out name by name, okay? So yeah, that is absolutely true. And for those of you who haven't read the book, you might think, how did he possibly get a snake on the plane? This is pre-9/11. So quite honestly, it is possible. Trust me, it happened. It was a Texan man. We were on our way to Houston. And he obviously put the snake in his bag, brought it on the plane. and fell asleep. And so in the middle of the flight, the snake got out, possibly hungry, and started munching on this lady's economy meal. I was really scared for the snake, actually. And she started screaming. He must have woken up at this point, got up, grabbed the snake, put it back in his bag, at which point I got to him, took him to the back galley, and started to have a really stern word with him, isolated him, started to have a really stern word with him, all the while remembering that there was a snake in his bag. This is not a euphemism, there was actually a snake in his bag. And so isolated him, and then went into the flight deck to tell the captain, explained to the captain, and this is no word of a lie, I promise you. He got on the blower, and he did say, Houston, we have a problem. He genuinely did say that. And so then we landed, and we opened the doors, and we were met by these two massive Texan policemen, one of them holding a handcuff. And I said in my kind of, frivolous way, you're never going to get a pair of that on the snake. And he went, I'm not going to, oh gosh, shall I try a Texan accent? I can't try a Texan, my Indian accent's better than my Texan accent. But he said, you don't worry about that now, ma'am. You're in the United States now, ma'am. And so he went down the aisle, and of course the handcuff wasn't for the snake, it was for the passenger. So he handcuffed him, took him off. But I felt really bad for him. I felt really sorry for him because these Texan policemen had no sense of humor. So him saying things like, no, officer, I'm not pleased to see you. I actually do have a snake in my pocket, wouldn't have gone down very well. But yeah, you're right. That is true.
True story.
It's true.
Okay, one last question. I'm going to open it up. Is there a particular style you try to emulate, or an author that you think is similar to what you've...
I think I've got a unique style. I think I've got a very unusual style. Obviously, every author likes to think they're unique, but I think it's very unusual. However, I would say that my greatest influence is P.G. Wodehouse. I think, he's absolutely... I've read every single book. And funnily enough, a friend of mine in India, Nikki, she was reading the book, and she was the only person who actually rang me up and said, I just kept thinking something's familiar. And then I suddenly realized, my goodness, this sounds like P.G. Wodehouse. So if you want to say, he's my greatest influence.
Wow, that's a great hero to have. And actually, now that you mention it, that his book's also easy to read and quick and witty, and you get it. Well done. Fantastic.
Thank you.
The
Thank
new
you
P.G.
very much.
Wodehouse. Now, here we are. We're at the beginning.
Thank you. So,
Okay, now, shall we open it up?
yeah, I know that some people have told me that they'd like to ask questions, so I'll just call them out if that's okay, and then
Don't
we'll throw
forget
it
Dinshaw,
open.
yeah? He's got to ask a
Dinshaw,
question.
yeah, Dinks. I'll just throw it open to the ones I know that
Okay.
want to ask me questions, and then if you can throw it open to
All right.
everyone, that would be all right. So
yeah.
Claire. So Claire.
And can you,
Claire,
if you can
Claire.
stand up when you're asking a question, then I don't know if you want to put the lights on so we can see people a bit.
Hello,
Yeah.
everybody.
Now, Claire. Before you ask me a question, just hold on 1 second, okay? Please, all right? I'm just going to say this. I love you, okay? But you know we are going out for dinner afterwards, okay? And last time we went out for dinner, you're eating a vindaloo and we're getting burning up the bum, which was very uncomfortable for all of us. So please, I'm asking you, do not eat a vindaloo tonight, okay? Now, ask your question.
I might change the question now.
Claire?
Rukshana.
Claire.
Okay.
Ask me an easy question.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm gonna bring up skinny dipping in skiathos, and you're still in expensive therapy about that. So be careful. It's not going to be a pretty sight.
Okay, I absolutely loved the book, just it made me howl with laughter. She did force me to read it. We were on holiday together, but it was really, really funny. What was your favourite part of the book?
Oh, that is so that's a difficult question. That is so difficult to answer. I think the part of the book that I like to relive, because it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, was when my daughter's godmother and I, Katie, when we went to Nairobi. And so it was for those of you who read the book, there is a incident in the book that I talk about where I feed a giraffe. It didn't exactly happen like that, but Katie and I had gone to Nairobi. and we'd gone on safari, and we were looking at these giraffes as we were on safari, and they actually said, look, they're tame enough for us to give you the feed, and we can, you can feed them. And so we were feeding them with our hand, and I said to Katie, this is just boring. This is so boring. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the feed between my lips, and I'm going to see if any of them come to me. And Katie, who actually, she's never fazed by anything. She'll just do anything, She's just like really cool, and she just does anything. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And of course, to begin with, they didn't come. But I had the feed behind my back so that they couldn't take it from anywhere else other than my lips. And after a little while, I think they got a little bit braver. And one of them, so you can imagine a giraffe. It was the most amazing experience of my life, one of them. This massive big head came down and gently came down. The biggest, blackest tongue I've ever seen in my entire life came out of his mouth, swiped the feed off me, and took it. Best snog I've ever had. It was the roughest tongue, honestly. I think they have to use it to swat away flies or something, but it was so rough. But the eyes and the eyelashes that were just like there, it was just amazing. So I like to relive that over and over again. Thank you for your question.
Excellent.
Sandy. Sandy. I'm not scared of your question, Sandy.
Oh, you might be, Rukshana.
Trust me, I'm not scared. I've been raised by an Asian mum. Nothing scares me.
Well, my question has been answered to a degree in terms of, where was the inspiration for your character? So I'm going to change my question a bit and say, what next then for Charlotte? Is there, are you going to continue this story with your next book? Are we going to